It's Jeep 4x4 season. Hurry in now for great deals. Now well-qualified returning FCA lessees get a low-mileage lease on the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4x4 for $369 a month for 24 months with $3,999 due at signing. Tax, title, license extra. No security deposit required. Call 1-888-925-JEEP for details. Requires dealer contribution. Lease through Ally Financial. Current lease must end by 7/1/24. Extra charge for miles over 20,000. Residency restrictions apply. Take delivery by 7/5/23. Jeep is a registered trademark.
The opinions expressed in this episode do not necessarily reflect those of the Murderish podcast. Sensitive topics are discussed. Listener discretion is advised.
Childhood friendships are often fickle. When it comes to moving up from middle school to high school, longtime friendships can fracture due to personality clashes and varied interests. Sometimes, though, friends grow even closer through all of life's changes. Best friends, Skylar Neese and Shelia Eddy, met in the 2nd grade and were inseparable ever since. When a new friend entered the picture, the trio seemed to develop a special bond, and naturally, they all trusted each other. It would come as a huge shock that Skylar Neese would lose her life at the hands of one of her closest friends. This is Jami, and you're listening to Murderish. Join me as I explore the case involving Skylar Neese, a girl with a big heart in a small town. This case brings us to Star City, West Virginia. The working-class town of less than 2,000 people is part of Monongalia County in the northeastern part of the state. West Virginia is located in a region known as Central Appalachia, where there are a lot of mountain chains and scenic hiking trails. Star City is roughly 10 miles from the Pennsylvania border. Its name comes from its biggest claim to fame, Star Glass Company, one of the first glass factories in the country. Generations of families stay in Star City due to its low housing costs and how close it is to the larger city of Morgantown. Dave and Mary Neese chose to raise their only child, Skyler, there, in a community that provided the comfort of everyone knowing everyone. There's safety in knowing your neighbors, or so they thought. Skylar Annette Neese was born on February 10th of 1996. Even though both of her parents worked full-time, they were always attentive to their little girl. Mary Neese worked as an admin assistant in a hospital's cardiology lab, and Dave was a product assembler for Walmart. Together, they earned a modest income, and a rented first-floor apartment in a small complex was where they called home. Skylar had supportive parents, and her childhood was a happy one. The Neese family enjoyed spending time together, and sometimes Skylar's parents got quality one-on-one time with her as well. While reminiscing in an interview with local news station WBOY, Dave Neese fondly recalled Daddy Skylar days full of tea parties, bug catching, and doing crafts. From a young age, Skylar displayed a high level of compassion for people and animals alike. She was bubbly and warm, making friends easily from the time she was a toddler through her high school years. Skylar was also good at keeping friends. She was known to be giving and fiercely loyal. The attractive brunette with a youthful face maintained a big group of friends in the first few years of elementary school, but her closest friend was Shelia Eddy. Ever since they met at 8 years old, Shelia and Skylar felt like they were sisters. The girls spent so much time together that Shelia came to view Dave and Mary Neese as a second set of parents. Shelia Eddy had much less stability in her childhood compared to Skylar. Sheila's parents divorced a few months after she was born. Her mother, Tara, juggled life as a single mother while working as an accountant for a car dealership. At one point, Sheila's father, Greg, was in a serious car accident. that left him permanently disabled with a traumatic brain injury. The Neeses were more than happy to bring Shelia along on family outings and let her sleep over when Tara was feeling overwhelmed. Shelia and Skylar had the kind of friendship that usually lasts a lifetime. In September of 2010, Skylar and Shelia began their freshman year at University High School. They had a class together with a girl named Rachel Schoaf, a vivacious redhead who was an aspiring stage actress. Skylar, Shelia, and Rachel quickly became a close-knit trio. The summer before high school, Rachel had moved to Star City from an affluent town. She came from a religious background and had gone to a Catholic middle school. But for high school, she wanted the public school experience and decided to attend University High. Out of the three girls, Shelia was considered the rebellious one. By sophomore year, she'd become a bad influence on her closest friends. It was always Shelia who encouraged Skylar and Rachel to skip class or go on late-night joyrides to get high. Skylar enjoyed a good time just like anyone else, but she had her sights set on the future. As an honors student, she planned to get a scholarship to a well-respected university. Then, she'd enroll in law school. Skylar's parents were very supportive of her future plans. Skylar also proved she was responsible with money. Starting freshman year, she worked part-time at Wendy's and put her earnings into a savings account. It would be out of character for Skylar to keep secrets from her parents. She had no reason to. Even in her teen years, they were open with one another. But the power of influence is strong, especially when it comes to a 16-year-old girl and her best friends. A little after 10 p.m. on July 5th of 2012, Skylar returned home from a shift at Wendy's in nearby Morgantown. After saying goodnight to her parents, she went into her bedroom and exchanged a string of text messages with Rachel and Shelia. It was a Friday night, and they persuaded Skylar to hang out. Just after midnight, Shelia pulled up in her Toyota Corolla, with Rachel riding shotgun. Since Skylar lived on the first floor, she stealthily climbed out the window to join her friends. It felt like any other late-night drive, the girls laughing and gossiping while music blasted from the stereo. Shelia hopped on Route 7, heading west, where they could smoke weed in a rural, secluded area. About 30 minutes later, they were over the state line in Brave, Pennsylvania. In a secluded, wooded area, Shelia pulled over and they all got out of the car. What happened next would change the lives of all three young girls forever. Skylar's father, Dave, thought all was well when he woke up on the morning of July 6th. He did think it was unusual that Skylar's bedroom door was still closed since his daughter was an early bird. At first, he knocked, but there was no answer. When he opened the door, it was clear Skylar had not slept in her bed the night before. Dave waited a while to see if Skylar would call or text. When she didn't, he went back to her bedroom. Inside her closet, he found the screen to her bedroom window, which had evidently been removed. Next to it, there was a small black bench, which was around the same height as the windowsill. Dave Neese later told ABC News, "Then I knew she snuck out last night. And then, oh my God, she snuck out last night and she's not home." Now that I'm in my mid-40s, I've become a full-blown skincare enthusiast. I'd say it's my top hobby, and it has been for the last couple of years. Cycling through the never-ending array of skincare products that promise to erase wrinkles, tighten your skin, and restore a youthful radiance was overwhelming and frustrating when they failed to deliver results. So let me tell you about OneSkin, which was established by a group of 4 female PhD-level longevity scientists with over 15 years of expertise in researching the aging process. Having conducted extensive tests on numerous peptides, they made a groundbreaking discovery, OS1, scientifically proven to target senescent cells, also known as aged cells. The OS1 peptide effectively reduces the biological age of the skin by several years. OneSkin's flagship product, OS1 Face, is clinically proven to improve firmness, fine lines, overall tone, and appearance. And OneSkin goes beyond surface-level effects. It focuses on promoting healthier skin from within. I recently started using OneSkin in my personal skincare routine, specifically their OS1 Eye Peptide Eye Cream, and it feels so nice going on my skin. It also pairs really well with my under-eye concealer. If you know, you know. OneSkin's products are fragrance-free, which is a must for me. My skin tends to be a little bit sensitive, but I've had no irritation from the OS1 products. So how does it actually work? In short, by specifically targeting the primary cause of skin aging due to the accumulation of old cells, OneSkin addresses the impairment of collagen production that results in wrinkles and loss of firmness. OneSkin is for everyone that wants to prevent or reverse the signs of aging with a groundbreaking approach. OneSkin addresses skin health at the molecular level, targeting the root causes of aging so skin behaves, feels, and appears younger. It's time for you to experience a new skin health routine at a discounted rate today. Get 15% off with code MURDERISH at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code MURDERISH. We only have one body, one skin, and only you can choose to make it better. Age healthy with OneSkin. The panic of Skylar's disappearance really set in later that afternoon. Mary Neese left work early when Dave let her know what was going on. They received a call from the manager at Wendy's. Skylar had not shown up for her shift. That's when the Neeses knew this was an emergency. Skylar never missed work. Sick with worry, Skylar's parents called 911 to report her missing. Later that day, Mary called Shelia to ask her what happened the night before. Mary Neese recalled to ABC's 2020. She proceeded to tell me that her, Skylar, and Rachel had snuck out the night before, and that they had driven around Star City, were getting high, and that the two girls had dropped her back off at the house. The story was they had dropped her off at the end of the road because she didn't want to wake us up sneaking back in. Shelia told Mary they picked Skylar up around 11 p.m. the night before and had her back home before midnight. This was the same account that Shelia and Rachel gave investigators when they were initially interviewed. Officer Jessica Colbank from the Star City Police Department was lead investigator on the case. Based on Sheila's demeanor, Colbank didn't believe she was telling the full story. Officer Colbank told ABC 2020 Shelia was just complete blank on emotions, and there was absolutely nothing. It was like iced over. As for Rachel, she seemed extremely nervous during questioning, which was a red flag to investigators. Officer Colbank said to ABC, their stories were verbatim, the same. No one's story is exactly the same, unless it's rehearsed. Everything in my gut was Shelia is acting wrong. Rachel is scared to death. In the early days of the investigation, that's all police had, a gut feeling they weren't being given all the details. And that definitely wasn't enough to implicate the high school girls in a crime. Star City Police brought in state investigators and worked alongside the FBI. The timeline given by Shelia and Rachel didn't match up with evidence from surveillance footage and cell phone records, only furthering suspicion. As outlined by ABC News, Shelia claimed they picked up Skylar at 11 p.m., but cameras outside the Neese's apartment complex showed her getting into the car at 12:30 a.m. It was a significant inconsistency, but still not enough to assume wrongdoing. On July 7th, the day after Skylar was reported missing, her best friend Shelia helped with search efforts. She accompanied the Neeses while they canvassed their neighborhood to ask if anyone had seen Skylar. They hung up missing person flyers all around Star City, on utility poles, at gas stations, on community bulletin boards, in supermarkets, and even inside local tattoo parlors. Rachel said she wanted to help but couldn't. She'd left that day for a 2-week Catholic camp. Everyone Mary and Dave spoke with expressed their sympathies, but they hadn't seen Skylar. Local news coverage increased public awareness of the ongoing investigation, but no major developments emerged. Days turned into weeks without answers. The community rallied together, organizing search parties in the woods. Shelia joined these efforts and dutifully called the Neeses every night to ask if they'd heard anything. The answer was always the same. They hadn't heard any news, but appreciated Sheila's support. Detectives began to wonder if Skylar had simply run away. Her father, Dave, was insistent that wasn't the case. Dave Neese later told CNN in an interview, if she would have run away, she would have taken her cell phone charger and hair curler and all the other stuff kids take. There had to be an explanation for Skylar's disappearance. All Dave and Mary Neese could do was wait and hope for the best. But investigators knew there was a strong possibility that something awful had stopped Skylar from returning home. The summer of 2012 came to an end and the new school year began without Skylar Neese. Almost immediately, classmates were spreading rumors about Skylar's disappearance. They all knew how close Shelia and Rachel were with Skylar. It seemed unlikely they didn't have any idea of where she'd gone or what happened to her. One of the most persistent rumors speculated that the 3 friends had gone to a house party where Skylar overdosed, and then Rachel and Shelia hid her body. All the staring and whispering from classmates took an emotional toll on Rachel and Shelia. They endured months of rumors. It became too much for Rachel, who had to be hospitalized in a mental health facility after a nervous breakdown. Whatever happened during Rachel's treatment changed her. 9 months after Skylar was reported missing, on January 3rd of 2013, Rachel Shove came forward to provide a major break in the case, a confession. Rachel told detectives that she and Shelia Eddy had planned the attack on Skylar more than a year before they acted on it. She said they lured Skylar out at night under the false pretense of hanging out and getting high, just like they usually did. Rachel and Shelia chose the place where it happened ahead of time. On that July night, Shelia drove 30 miles to a rural area of Wayne Township, Pennsylvania, across the Mason-Dixon line. In a desolate, wooded area, they all got out of the car. Maybe they smoked a joint, gossiped about crushes, or complained about teachers for a while. It was all part of the plan, to catch Skylar completely off guard. And they did. Rachel and Shelia had placed themselves on either side of where Skylar was standing. On the count of 3, they savagely stabbed their so-called best friend using kitchen knives they'd hidden under their clothing, lowering and raising their blades over and over again. At one point, Skylar scrambled away from her frenemies. She tried to kick the knife out of Sheila's hand while blocking Rachel's blade with her arms and fighting for her life. But Skylar was outnumbered and eventually succumbed to her extensive injuries. In total, Skylar Neese's best friends stabbed her more than 50 times. According to CBS News, Skylar was stabbed so viciously, she was almost decapitated. Laundry detergent jugs take up a lot of space in our recycling bins. All this plastic harms our precious planet and marine ecosystems. Fortunately, there's a solution. Earth Breeze is a game-changing alternative that effectively washes your clothes without harming our planet. My new Earth Breeze laundry detergent eco sheets look just like a dryer sheet, but they are not. They're revolutionary liquidless laundry detergent sheets that dissolve in any wash cycle, hot or cold. You just toss the sheet in the wash. It's that simple. No more mess from spilling liquid detergent, no more measuring, and no more carrying heavy plastic jugs. The packaging is lightweight, biodegradable, and plastic-free, and it gets delivered straight to your door via free carbon-neutral shipping. Depending on how much laundry you typically have, you can set the perfect shipping frequency that works for your lifestyle. I really love that these eco sheets are safe for sensitive skin and compatible with HE washers, gray water systems, and they're septic safe. Most importantly, you still get a powerful clean. Earth Breeze is tough on stains, fights odors, and your clothes come out clean every time. I was worried that switching to something better for the environment meant that I would sacrifice the clean for my laundry, but I was so happy to smell fresh laundry after using my Earth Breeze Eco Sheet. You can try Earth Breeze for yourself with their risk-free 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't like it, Earth Breeze will give you a full refund, no questions asked, and no return necessary. Switch from the old-fashioned goo to something new. Right now, my listeners can subscribe to Earth Breeze and save 40%. Go to earthbreeze.com/murderish to get started. That's earthbreeze.com/murderish for 40% off. earthbreeze.com/murderish. According to CBS, Rachel told police that she brought a shovel. After the murder, she and Shelia tried to bury Skylar's body, but the ground was harder than they expected. Instead, they covered her with fallen branches and dragged her body behind a tree. Skylar's killers left her all alone for months in the middle of nowhere, while her family continued their search. Shelia and Rachel were so prepared they had brought a change of clothes. The girls couldn't risk someone being awake and seeing them in bloody clothes when they got back home. According to Oxygen, Rachel said that after changing, they burned their clothes. Rachel continued to cooperate with investigators after her confession. She led police to the spot in the woods where she and Shelia had left Skylar. Skylar's body was located on January 16, 2013, but she was so badly decomposed, her identity wasn't confirmed until March. After the confession and recovery of Skylar's body, detectives needed Rachel's help to get a confession from Shelia. While wearing a wire, Rachel tried to bring up the crime to Shelia several times, but every time, Shelia failed to incriminate herself. Meanwhile, Shelia remained active on social media, keeping up the persona of a bereaved friend, while investigators gathered enough evidence to implicate her in the murder. When the news spread about Skylar's body being found, Shelia used Twitter to communicate her devastation over the loss. According to ABC News, she tweeted, "Worst day of my life," followed by a photo montage of her and Skylar together with the caption, "Rest easy, Skylar. You'll always be my best friend." It seemed like a cruel joke based on what investigators already knew about Sheila's involvement. In late March, detectives obtained a search warrant for Sheila's car, which had been seen on surveillance footage the night of the crime. They found traces of blood that were confirmed to be Skylar's after DNA testing. It no longer mattered if Shelia insisted she didn't know anything. The DNA evidence directly linked her to Skylar's murder. The biggest question looming over this case was why? What could have possibly motivated two young women to savagely stab and kill someone they supposedly considered their closest friend? In an interview with ABC, State Police Captain Ronnie Gaskin recalled asking Rachel why she and Shelia killed Skyler, and she replied, "We just didn't like her." The true motive of Rachel and Sheila's actions wouldn't come to light until years later. Understandably, Skyler's parents were infuriated when they heard about Rachel's response. Dave Neese, the more outspoken parent, told CNN that he hoped both girls would rot in hell, and added, "If you don't want to be friends with somebody, leave them alone, but don't murder them." On May 1st of 2013, Rachel Schoaf turned herself in. Shelia Eddy was arrested later in the day in a restaurant parking lot. Even though they were both 16 when they killed Skyler, they were charged as adults on first-degree murder charges. At a May 2013 court hearing, Rachel took a plea deal. In exchange for cooperating with investigators, she pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of second-degree murder. Rachel's family issued a statement communicated in court through her lawyer. According to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the statement read, "There is no way to describe the pain that we too are feeling. We are truly sorry for the pain that she has caused the Neese family, and we know her actions are unforgivable and inexcusable. Our daughter has admitted her involvement, and she has accepted responsibility for her actions." For her role in Skyler's murder, prosecutors plan to recommend a 20-year sentence. Under West Virginia law at the time, her charges made her eligible for up to 40 years in prison. At a February 2014 sentencing hearing, defense attorneys requested that Rachel be sentenced as a juvenile. As reported by the West Virginia Metro News, Judge Russell Clauges denied the request and stated that would not be justice. Rachel took the stand and publicly apologized to the Neese family and her own family. But the damage had already been done. Dave Neese wasn't convinced that she was remorseful and later said to the Metro News, "She can take her apologies and sit on them. She's made my life a living hell. The only reason she cooperated was because she was caught." When it came to sentencing, the judge met the state in the middle. He sentenced Rachel Schoaf to 30 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years served. Shelia Eddy, Skylar's very best friend since second grade, initially pleaded not guilty to charges of kidnapping, conspiracy, and first-degree murder. Dave Neese was enraged by Sheila's claim of innocence following a September 2013 plea hearing. As documented by the West Virginia Metro News, his reaction was, "You liar, you liar, you liar." That's the only thing that kept going through my mind. She looked over at me and smiled a couple of times, trying to get a reaction from me, but I just got up and left the courtroom. Skylar's father tried to express to the Metro News how much the loss of his daughter impacted her loved ones, saying, "My life and my wife's life have been drastically altered. We're no longer a family. You can look into the eyes of those who were responsible, but you can never know what they heard as they were taking her life." Like countless others, Skylar's parents did not think a jury trial would go well for Shelia. All evidence confirmed her guilt, and a jury would likely agree. Have you ever gotten lured in by a try-it-free for 30 days offer, only to completely forget about it by the end of that 30 days? Don't feel bad because you're definitely not alone. In fact, over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. The thing is, after those 30 days are up, you end up paying for something you don't even use, and you may not even realize it. That's where Rocket Money can help. Rocket Money helps you find those forgotten subscriptions so you can stop paying for the ones you don't use. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Whether it's that Stars app that you only needed for one show, or that unused free gaming trial, Rocket Money will easily locate all of your subscriptions for you. If there's one you no longer wish to pay for, simply hit the cancel button and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. It could not be any easier. But that's not all. Having Rocket Money is like having a personal finance assistant. Rocket Money also serves as a comprehensive finance management tool, allowing you to centralize all of your financial matters in one place. It automatically categorizes your expenses, enabling you to track your budget in real time. Plus, it keeps a vigilant eye on all of your transactions, notifying you if anything seems suspicious. Join over 3 million satisfied users who've harnessed the power of Rocket Money, saving an average of $720 each year. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/murderish. That's rocketmoney.com/murderish. rocketmoney.com/murderish. 1 week before her trial was scheduled to begin, Shelia Eddy had a change of heart. She decided to take a plea deal. Her attorneys advised that if she pleaded not guilty in West Virginia, she could face additional charges in the state of Pennsylvania. At her January 2014 sentencing hearing, Shelia expressed no remorse for taking Skylar's life. She never apologized to the Neese family, who once considered her a second daughter. The same judge who'd sentenced Rachel handed down Sheila's sentence. In exchange for pleading guilty to first-degree murder, the conspiracy and kidnapping charges were dropped. 18-year-old Shelia was sentenced to life in prison with mercy. According to CBS, this meant she could be eligible for parole after serving 15 years. But neither Rachel nor Shelia would be released on parole, not if Dave and Mary Neese had anything to say about it. In May of 2023, more than 11 years after the brutal murder, Rachel Shove became eligible for parole. Dave Neese attended the hearing to tell the parole board why Rachel did not deserve to be set free. And he wasn't the only one who was opposed to Rachel's release. A Change.org petition titled Keep Rachel Shove Behind Bars for the 2012 murder of Skylar Neese received over 30,000 signatures. During Rachel's parole hearing, the true motivation behind Skylar's murder was exposed. Rachel and Shelia had formed a romantic relationship and lived in fear of others finding out. The young women assumed their conservative West Virginia town would not react kindly to a same-sex couple. Their relationship was a secret they guarded with their lives, so when Skylar found out, she was caught in the crosshairs. According to local news station WBOY, Rachel said at her hearing, after things became known with the relationship, there was a tension between us. It was hostile and violent in our teenage minds, and we didn't know how to handle the conflict, and we just wanted it to stop. Once again, Rachel tried to apologize for the damage that she and Shelia caused. As reported by WBOY, she told the victim's family, "I know I can't express how sorry I am for what I have done and for the pain I have caused. I loved her. I know what we did was terrible, and there are no words to describe the pain that we caused. And I would trade places with Skylar so she could be with her loved ones." Whether it was sincere or not, Rachel's remorse fell on deaf ears. Like his daughter Skylar, Dave Neese was not going down without a fight. As documented by WBOY News, he told the parole board, "This vicious murderer sits here today asking for a second chance. I ask you, where is Skylar's second chance? Where was her second chance when this monster counted to 3 and began to slash and stab at my only child? I don't want to live in a world without Skylar, but I have to. I want to make sure it's as safe as possible from predators like this one. I ask that you deny parole for this diabolical butcher and allow Skylar's mother and I the knowledge that her killer will not be granted the reality of adulthood that our daughter was never allowed to experience. Rachel Schoaf was denied parole. According to the West Virginia Department of Corrections, she remains incarcerated at the Lakin Correctional Center, where her projected release date is April of 2028. As for Shelia Eddy, who's serving her sentence at the same facility, she'll be eligible for parole in May of 2028. Undoubtedly, Dave Neese will be at Sheila's parole hearing to express his opposition. They say time heals all wounds, but more than a decade since the worst tragedy of their lives, Dave and Mary Neese continue to grieve. In July of 2014, to facilitate their own healing, they decided to transform Skylar's murder site into a memorial. Alongside the tree her body was hidden behind, a bench funded by community supporters was installed. It sits near a giant heart formed by rocks that are painted purple, Skylar's favorite color. A photo of Skylar and some personal mementos are pinned to the tree, creating a space that encourages somber reflection. Dave Neese said to ABC News, "I wanted to take the horrible thing that happened here and try to turn it into something good, a place that people can come and remember Skylar, and remember the good little girl that she was, and not the little beast that they treated her like." The Neeses found the best way to honor Skylar's memory is through spinning a tragedy into a catalyst for change. In April of 2013, the state of West Virginia passed legislation called Skylar's Law that requires law enforcement agencies to issue an alert in the initial stages of any investigation involving a missing child under the age of 18. An Amber Alert, on the other hand, which is the primary system for reporting missing children, has strict criteria that includes evidence of abduction and waiting 48 hours before a teenager can be considered missing. In December of 2017, after years of advocacy efforts, the U.S. Senate passed a federal bill to enact Skylar's Law. As a result, the Department of Justice created the EMA Network, a national database of endangered or missing individuals. With this new system, the public can be notified about missing children, even in cases where Amber Alert criteria is not met. The Neeses hope the law inspired by their daughter will bring other children home to their loved ones. In a press release issued by the Senate about Skylar's Law, Dave Neese said, "Anytime a child goes missing, it's the most helpless feeling in the world, and I don't want anyone to have to go through what we went through." Dave Neese has been extremely vocal about telling Skylar's story because he wants people to understand the ripple effects of their actions. When Rachel Schoaf and Shelia Eddy decided to carry out their sinister plan, they weren't just killing their friend, they were shattering the lives of everyone who truly cared about Skylar. In an effort to protect themselves, Rachel and Shelia completely destroyed so many lives. In 2022, Skylar's friend Jackie Morgan wrote a poem in her honor titled Forever 16. As quoted by WBOY News, the poem concludes with a chilling revelation. Due to the sickness and evil, Skylar will be forever 16. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode of Murderish. I'm going to be on Podcast Row at CrimeCon again this year. CrimeCon is happening in Orlando, Florida from June 22nd to June 24th of 2023, and I'll be there all weekend long on Podcast Row, meeting fans and enjoying the company of so many other true crime podcasters and high-profile individuals who work in the true crime space. If you're planning to attend CrimeCon, and why wouldn't you, use my promo code MURDERISH for 10% off a standard badge. Go to crimecon.com and use code MURDERISH for 10% off. I really hope to see you guys there. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok at Jami on Air. That's Jami on Air on Instagram and TikTok. On social media, I recap a lot of true crime cases, and I take you behind the scenes at my recording studio, so give me a follow at Jami on Air. If you'd rather listen to the podcast with no interruptions, you can do so by signing up for Murderish Behind the Mic on Patreon. To sign up for Murderish Behind the Mic, visit murderish.com or just go to patreon.com and search for Murderish there and start enjoying ad-free Murderish episodes. If you need more podcasts to listen to, I host another true crime podcast called Dirty Money Moves, Women in White Collar Crime. The podcast follows my deep dive investigation of a woman I met a few years ago, a woman who turned out to be a prolific scam artist. You can search for Dirty Money Moves in any podcast app. If you enjoy Murderish, consider leaving the show a positive rating and review in any podcast app. This episode was researched and written by Alison Schwartz. Visit murderish.com for a list of sources used for this episode. And remember, listening to this podcast doesn't make you a murderer. It just means you're murder-ish. Murderish listeners, there's a missing persons case that needs our attention. Donita Wilkerson, a native of Evansville, Indiana, has been missing since June 21st of 2020. She is described as a black petite woman with black hair and brown eyes in her mid-40s, who's 5'3" and weighs roughly 145 pounds. Donita was last seen at a local motel getting into a silver 2004 Chevy Suburban. Her phone was shut off the next morning, and she hasn't had any contact with her mother or daughters since. Donita, who has several medical conditions requiring medication, has unique tattoos that may help to identify her. They include a heart on her lower back, praying hands with the name Timmy on her upper right shoulder, and a cross on her upper left shoulder. Any information regarding Donita Wilkerson's disappearance should be provided to the FBI's Indianapolis office or the Evansville Police Department's tip line at 812-435-6194.
Murder, She Told is an award-winning true crime podcast that dives into the lesser-known cold cases and true crime stories from the New England region and beyond. Created by me, Kristen Seavey. Murder, She Told uses detailed storytelling with an investigative twist, weaving in original interviews with those closest to the case. Rooted in deep research, straightforward narratives, and the victims at the center of every story, Murder, She Told will speak to any listener, no matter where they call home. Learn more at murdershetold.com and find Murder, She Told now wherever you get podcasts.